This week on Marketplace.
I got water leaking into my house.
Would you want to live here?
I can see how water would pour through here.
And at what price?
Is this place killing my children?
Collecting rent on homes that are falling apart.
She's stuck in what is a hellhole.
It's not good for our health.
And unsafe.
The unit should be vacated.
We investigate one of Canada's largest landlords, taking you inside and looking for answers.
We have questions for you, sir.
We're knocking on the doors of one of Canada's biggest landlords, going where so many of us live.
I would like to view an apartment.
We hear the promises made before moving in
100% in place in this one.
and see what happens after moving day.
You guys have a water leakage problem?
No.
A third of us rent. Many live in buildings owned by large landlords. Among them, TransGlobe, with hundreds of properties across Canada, including this low-rise in Scarborough, Ontario. On the top floor, Nadira Singh moved in with her 2 kids 4 years ago. When she first saw the one-bedroom apartment for rent, she looked forward to moving in. With rent under $900 a month, it was affordable, near her job, and clean.
And everything was so spick and span. There was no sign of any holes or any problems.
But now,
Come over here, I'll show you. All right, we're doing up there.
a severe leak in the building's roof is creating a flood of problems.
Wow, so that's
Right.
water damage, isn't it?
Yeah, right where the fire drill is. And here in
Oh,
the
good
bedroom,
heavens.
they have a big hole up there.
Right. How long has that been like that?
For 3 years, 3.5 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
With water pouring in, she's asked TransGlobe to fix the problem many times, but nothing's been done. And her own handiwork isn't enough.
I'm curious what's up there. We'll have to have a look. Uh-oh. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, there's the hole. Look at that. I can see how water would pour through here. Oh, yeah. There's pipes. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And down the hall,
And behind
Ready?
door number 3 we have.
You ready?
Okay.
It's up the ceiling there.
Lots of bowls and buckets.
Yes.
And plastic on your coats.
It leaks a lot. I have to keep emptying the bowls and
Right.
the bucket.
Nadira shows us some mold that's got her worried.
Right. Wow.
The stuff's growing in other places too, and she's heard mold like this can make you sick.
Real bad. It's very bad. It's not good for our health either.
How frustrating is it to live
It
like
is
this?
frustrated. I keep calling in, making complaints, filling out work order. We paying our rent, and they should do something about it.
We want to know how bad the mold issue is, so we'll be back later to test Nadira's apartment. Meantime, we go just down the hall to knock on a few more doors and discover the troubles aren't just at Nadira's place. These tenants have also been asking TransGlobe to fix the roof for years. But the company does nothing. It was too busy, building itself into one of the country's biggest landlords, aggressively buying up 400 buildings in 6 provinces. At the head of TransGlobe, Daniel Drimmer, collecting rent from tenants in 26,000 units. But as the company grew, so did the number of complaints.
Some residents of a rundown apartment building are saying enough is enough.
From the West Coast to Toronto,
The buildings are disintegrating.
They just put 1-800 numbers to complain.
to the nation's capital.
Some people living at 50 Selkirk told our Danny Gloverman the building has all sorts of problems.
And all the way to the Maritimes.
Hundreds of people in North End, Dartmouth have been told to stay off their apartment balconies because they're unsafe.
Cities and provinces have laws requiring landlords to provide good, safe housing. But we contact tenants living in BC, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. And they tell us about a range of issues. From windows that look like this, to ceilings looking like this, and walls like this. Among the tenants we talked to is Jennifer McWaters. She moves into this TransGlobe complex in Ottawa, unaware of the reputation her landlord is developing. She likes this townhouse development. Rent's about $1,200, manageable for her growing family. It's close to the hospital where her husband goes for dialysis 3 times a week. Everything she needs and more, just like the ads say.
you'll feel safe and at peace walking into your new home at Heron Gate Village. Our apartment suites are equipped with spacious and modern kitchens and baths.
Prepare yourself. It's not what you would expect when you think family room, basement, fully finished, really renovated, and ready to go.
But when Jennifer walks into her new home, peace of mind isn't what she finds.
Wow. Yikes. So what's the story with what happened down here?
We moved in February. 2 months later, as everything started to thaw, we started noticing puddles. And we're like, okay, is it the window? And we know the window is closed, the window is fine. And then it would rain, and one day it rained and it rained and it rained. And we came down here in the evening and the water was out halfway across the room.
Turns out the problem is with the foundation.
And we were calling them saying, like, listen, our basement's leaking. Oh yeah, we'll come fix it tomorrow, and nobody would come.
Months go by, and mold starts growing.
You have 2 young children here. How scared are you?
I'm pretty terrified. I mean, their lungs are developing.
Jen gives up and calls Ottawa's Public Health Department. They're so concerned about the mold, they tell TransGlobe to fix the problem. But when TransGlobe finally shows up...
So they came out and they took the walls down, and they leaned them up against this wall. And they left it here for about 4 months.
You're paying full rent for 2/3 of a house.
It makes me mad. It makes me angry. I mean, it's a lot of money. We pay equivalent of a mortgage.
So how did she and so many other tenants end up paying for so many problems? That's what we want to put to the test. We want to hear what tenants are told and shown before they move in. And we start by looking for an apartment of our own to rent. We find one in downtown Toronto and pay a visit, posing as potential renters, with hidden cameras rolling.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
The building superintendent shows us around. It is pricier than other units in the building.
And the rent, how much did you say it was?
Because it's newly renovated. Looks good, but out of camera range, we noticed some damage on the bathroom ceiling. We asked the super about it.
Have you ever had any problems with water leakage?
Yeah, that line was plugged. That's why we can see over here.
Yeah.
So we already fixed it. So.
Just a pipe from upstairs that needed unclogging, he tells us.
Do you guys have a water leakage problem then?
No.
Nothing to worry about. But we want a second opinion. And this time, we're tagging along with these guys. Toronto is the only city in Canada with an inspection team like this that makes sure landlords are following the law. Today, they happen to be looking at the same building we were in just weeks before. It's not long before they find some issues.
Do you see the water dripping here?
The light fixture is chained around the sprinkler pipe. This is unacceptable. It's not on. This needs to be secured. So the self-closer is broken.
But the consensus is overall, the main areas aren't too bad.
Very nice. I like the wall paper.
But the inspection isn't over. When we come back, we go inside and to the door of the man who built TransGlobe. We're putting one of Canada's largest landlords to the test.
I would like to view an apartment.
We've already seen the conditions that many of their tenants face and heard what they tell and don't tell potential renters.
Have you ever had any problems with water leakage?
Yeah, that line was plugged.
Now, we're following this City of Toronto inspection team behind closed doors to see what's really going on inside these apartments.
City Toronto.
Hello, sir.
Some don't have any issues.
I haven't made any complaints.
City Toronto.
Is there any problems inside of your unit?
Oh, many problems.
What kind of many problems?
But others invite the inspectors in. Us, too. This woman shows us large cracks in her bedroom wall, an exterior wall of the building.
How long has that problem in the wall been there?
Oh, a long time. Years. We try to fix it, but again, it's coming the same.
Mm-hmm. But the people who look after the building, do they try to fix it for you?
No, never.
A few floors below, more problems.
And that was when?
Long time.
Another tenant doesn't want our cameras inside his apartment, but he does give us this video.
third time in 3 weeks. I got water leaking into my house.
A very different story from what we're told just weeks before as potential tenants.
Do you guys have another leakage problem yet? No.
All told, the inspection team finds 95 violations and orders the landlord to do the repairs. If they don't comply, the city can lay charges. What's been your program's experience with TransGlobe?
I believe the records, public records, will show that we've laid charges against this particular landlord.
To be precise, TransGlobe faces 14 charges for failing to do repairs ordered by the city. We discover it's worse in other Ontario cities. The company's racked up 233 charges for breaking fire safety laws. So far, TransGlobe's been fined about $80,000. We want to know if those penalties might have much of an impact on TransGlobe. So we take our findings to Michael Shapcott.
Hey, Michael, Tom Harrington from Marketplace.
Very nice to meet you.
He's an expert on housing policy in Canada and around the world.
I wonder what the effect of those fines are for a company that big with that much money.
It's a cost of doing business, and so there's some bookkeeper or accountant somewhere in the bowels of TransGlobe that's counting up the fines and probably is comparing that to what it would cost to actually bring the buildings up to proper health, safety, and fire standards.
We've seen some pretty horrendous things in their buildings. Why is that happening?
This is a company which is structured not to provide good quality, affordable housing for low, moderate income households. It's a company that's structured in order to provide a maximum return to the investors.
Investors? That's right. TransGlobe became an investment opportunity last year when its founder, Daniel Drimmer, sold the majority of his properties to this new venture called TransGlobe REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. That's Drimmer taking the company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. He made millions from the sale while retaining 20% ownership.
A company like TransGlobe takes advantage of the fact that this is a totally lax regulatory environment where the interests and issues and indeed the basic health of tenants is not considered all that important.
Seems to be the case in that Scarborough building where Nadira Singh lives. Despite knowing for 3 years that the roof needed replacing, TransGlobe neglected the problem. And now we're finding out just how damaging that neglect has been. We've asked for some help from mold testing specialist Frank Havergate.
Thanks for helping us out today.
Oh, my pleasure.
We head in for another visit with Nadira Singh.
One of the main things that I want to look at is what you're breathing in.
Okay.
Frank has a look around, then runs a number of tests.
See the moisture?
How would you describe the living conditions in this place?
What I see in this unit I don't like. Whether it's a true health and safety concern at this point, we'd have to see the lab results.
We'll get those results later. To housing expert Michael Shapcott, all these stories speak to the lack of power that tenants have.
What the landlord is counting on in this kind of situation is that either the tenant's going to give up after a while after complaining, or if the tenant eventually moves out, they know they've got a whole lineup of other tenants that could move in.
That seems to be the case for Jennifer McWaters at this TransGlobe complex in Ottawa. We're back there now, but this time as potential renters.
Yeah. Hi, we're here to see the pipe. Okay, perfect.
The super shows us a few townhouses similar to the type rented by Jennifer.
This one would be the one that we can get ready the quickest because they just apparently finished.
They're in pretty bad shape. Smashed windows, some just caked with dirt. Light fixtures without covers.
I noticed some marks on the ceiling here. Does this one have a leaky roof?
And signs of water damage.
The most I can say is I can send somebody up on the roof. If it hasn't already been patched, they'll patch it.
But again, we're told not to worry. All fixed before we move in, he says.
We'll scrape off all the paint. The windows that I said we replaced.
Jennifer McWaters heard that before. Once her deposit was paid and her moving day underway, she found her home was hardly in the mint condition she was told it would be.
That's supposed to be our plug that is attached to the light switch to give us light over in this area. That's not the only hole we have in the room. We also have our lovely floor. We try to keep it camouflaged by furniture, but we have many pieces missing from over here. This is the issue with the door. It has no handle. Missing light fixtures.
Oh boy.
Screens that don't fit. Same issue in the bathroom with the lack of a light fixture. So it's just bare bones up there.
Right.
And here we are 2 years later, and they still haven't been done.
As for the leaking basement, she's certain TransGlobe knew about that before moving her in.
Hey there.
Hi, I'm Natasha Heston.
Thanks to this neighbor.
Where did you live when you first lived in this community?
this community. I lived in this unit right here.
Jennifer's apartment?
Jennifer's old unit.
Did you ever have problems with water damage, flooding, things like that?
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, the first incident of water problems was in my basement.
So you moved out, Jen moves in, and the water problems are still there?
Obviously, they were never remedied.
And that's 2 years before Jen moved in. We tell the employee we're worried the problems we see won't be fixed once we've signed the lease.
I worry about being locked in if there's a major problem.
But we're told we'll be taken care of or get our money back.
Worst case scenario is they will find a way to please you. So if you have a roof leak and you really can't stay in that house because it's ruined it for you, they'll find you another one. If that's not the case, they'll rebate your rent.
Hardly the case for Jennifer. She's been asking for a third of her rent back for months.
Hi, Mr. Drimmer. This is Jennifer McWaters calling. I've sent you a couple of emails, but I haven't heard back from you.
Back at the rental office, we get an application and hear of one more catch.
So
wait for it.
Well, nothing gets done until you're approved.
We won't be able to see the apartment fixed up until after our deposit is paid.
So you complete the application, drop off the first and last month's rent, then they approve the PO to have work start.
But for some tenants, it seems the work never starts. I take a walk around the community. While we're out, another resident waves us into her home. Her English is poor, but you don't need words to understand what's going on here. Oh, your window's broken. Wow.
Yes, 6 months.
6 months it's been like this?
Yes.
Really?
Go office, no coming.
You just put blankets in?
Ocean.
And children sleep in here?
No, sleep today and she'll call. Sleep, yes.
Okay, so they sleep in there when it's cold in here. That's in our national capital.
And she's stuck in what is a hellhole. To be in Ottawa without a window is not uncomfortable. It's a major health hazard.
I can hear some people watching and saying, look, if it's really that bad, move. Just move out.
It's not a legitimate solution because there isn't anywhere for them to move. The rental vacancy rates in most parts of the country are extraordinarily low.
When we come back, we get some disturbing results about Nadira's apartment.
And this is serious.
Learn about a new landlord in town.
The one time I got somebody to email me back, it was because they didn't own the company anymore.
And track down the man who built the TransGlobe empire. We have questions for you, sir. We're putting one of Canada's biggest landlords to the test, and we've uncovered apartments being rented with chronic maintenance issues and serious safety concerns, including the mold we tested in the apartment of Nadira Singh. We head over, results in hand. Nadira, we've got the report back from the test we did for the mold. First recommendation is the unit should be vacated.
Okay, oh my goodness.
The one place where the tester found the most mold in the air and the most content was in the bedroom. The mold they told us about is one of the most toxic or poisonous kinds.
And this is serious.
You sound scared.
Yeah, it is. I am.
We want to talk to the man who was responsible for these buildings when the problem started, and so do his tenants. I understand you emailed the owner of the company. What response did you get?
No response. The one time I got somebody to email me back, it was because they didn't own the company anymore.
Jen receives this email saying her townhouse is now owned by a new company called Starlight. And who owns Starlight?
That would be Daniel Drimmer, who has chosen not to answer my emails or my phone calls.
That's right, the same Daniel Drimmer who owned TransGlobe. And signs for his new company are now popping up all over the country too. He isn't answering our phone calls either, and turns down our requests for an interview. But we do get a call from this man. Hi, Mr. Hansick. Kelly Hansick. He became the CEO of TransGlobe REIT when it went public last year. That's him with his former boss, Daniel Drimmer. He spent 7 years working for him in a number of senior positions, including COO. But despite sharing the name TransGlobe, he says he plans to run his business differently.
I have a very strong customer-centric focus. And I also believe in long-term vision for our company. For an example, 2010, we spent approximately $13 million in capital expenditures. So these are things like balcony repairs, roof repairs, things that needed to get done. For 2011, that number grown substantially, so about $28 million.
But where was that commitment prior to this?
I can't comment on a company that I did not own or did not control the capital allocation.
You worked for it, though, in a very senior position, and you can't comment?
What I can comment on is the REIT. I am fully responsible for everything that goes on in the REIT.
Including Nadira's building, which his company took over in September. We tell him about our mold test.
What are you prepared to do for her?
Relocate her at our cost. We are going to do the roof, clean it up, and then the building will be good.
But what about people living in buildings still owned by Daniel Drimmer? We want him to see what some of his tenants deal with every day. Armed with photos they sent to us, we knock on one more door.
Mr. Drimmer, Tom Harrington from Marketplace.
Hey, you're not honestly coming to my house.
Yes, I am, sir. We have questions for you, sir. Need to leave these for you, Mr. Drimmer. Have a look at them.
Drimmer's team does answer Jennifer McWaters, though. She's offered a cash settlement as long as she moves and agrees not to talk to us anymore. As for that building in Scarborough, now owned by the REIT, 2 weeks after we interview Kelly Hansick, these guys show up to replace the roof. And Nadira Singh is now on her way to a new 2-bedroom apartment. She and her kids will stay there while their old apartment is being fixed. Still, for many other tenants living in Transglobe and Starlight apartments across Canada, home may still be where the heartache is.
Step right up, folks.
Next week on Marketplace.
You know what that means?
The toilet paper chase.
Going off-road from Marketplace.
What does this stamp of approval really mean?
Wow.
Do eco-labels like this mean forests are protected?
Wait, it comes from the trees that were cut down in those areas?
Or do they protect the bottom line?
There are critics out there who say that the logo is really more about selling toilet paper than it is about sustainable forestry.
Join Erica Johnson and me every Friday night at 8:30 in Newfoundland on Marketplace.